Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a great evening. My name is Dan Petrin, and I am Outbound Product Manager for our SPM business unit. And my role at ServiceNow is really to get the message out to you, help you with your customer adoption, and regarding today's discussion, make sure that we can share our customer stories from our SPM evangelists like Alliant. Alliant has a great story that I want to share with you, that they want to share with you today. It's really got a little bit of everything. Not only does it lead with the scaled Agile framework and our solutions, but also with kind of a unique twist on that. Not only software development, but also infrastructure services for mergers and acquisitions. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ryan Skadberg, the CTO, Scott Yates, Systems Architect, and Claire Trajano, who is the Release Train Engineer. Take it away.
Hi. If you guys can hear me, can you clap once? Awesome. Can you hear me now? Clap twice? Okay, y'all can hear me. So Karina and I yesterday were talking about how obviously there's other sessions going on, so I want to make sure I'm projecting. So it's great to be here. I'm super excited to share our journey with you because the general sentiment is that, how does infrastructure do Agile? It doesn't fit well. Agile doesn't fit within infrastructure, but through our M&A process, we realized, that's actually not the case. We can actually make it work. But before we begin, just a brief background about the company. Alliant Insurance is one of the leading distributors of diversified insurance products and services in the US. There are over 9,000 employees that we have to date, and we are across the country in North America, including US, Mexico, and Canada. This isn't actually part of what we rehearsed, but what I want to take the time to do is talk about and mention, there was a session I attended yesterday called Creating Psychological Safety for Women at the Workplace. And I thought that it was really important because I wouldn't be having all the opportunities that I have and be able to take part in this process if it wasn't for my teammates here. So Ryan, thank you for taking a chance. I was very young, and I didn't have experience, but he said, you know what? Yeah, we'll take a chance on you. It's okay, we'll teach you. And Scott is very technical. I always say I'm non-technical, and I appreciate you, Scott, for saying, hey, you know what? Let's whiteboard this out. And, let me explain things to you in ways that you understand. So thank you both for giving me a chance to take part in this. Obviously, it is not perfect. We have our ups and downs. And so with that, I want to pass it over to Ryan to talk about our challenges.
Thank you, Claire. So our challenges were probably not all that unique. Same thing everybody else probably has dealt with before with traditional project management. We didn't have a standardized way that we're doing this. It was Microsoft Project for some people, Excel spreadsheets for others. And so each team or group would manage that however they chose to do. And so all of the traditional challenges with that, there wasn't good coordination. You had one person who had the master plan. You had to have a project manager to basically distribute that information out to the team, and a lot of the inefficiencies that came with doing that. And so initially what we were looking at as part of our Agile journey was actually just starting with traditional Waterfall, but doing that within ServiceNow. So we'd been a ServiceNow shop, traditional ITIL, incident request management. And so it was a natural fit for us. The teams were already on that tool. And so getting our traditional project management into ServiceNow initially gave us those advantages of being able to get everyone on a standard platform. And so we initially were going down that road to drive those efficiencies and be able to do that process, traditional project management, better. And then as we went into that, we started falling into this Agile journey in phases. So it wasn't something we consciously decided this is our route to safe, scaled Agile. This was something that naturally progressed over time. And so that initial piece of us moving into Waterfall there, Claire will go over that journey there.
So thanks, Ryan. So my day one at Alliant, a meeting with Ryan. And this is a true story. So my day one, I'm like, hey Ryan, so what am I gonna do? Do you guys have a project plan? He goes, oh yeah, we just acquired a company that's half the size of our company, and we need to integrate them. I was like, okay. Oh, and they're a divestiture. I'm like, integrate. I have no PM background. Like I said earlier, what am I doing? What? Do you guys have a project plan? And then he had to go into meetings, right? He's a busy guy. So I said, okay, I guess I need to go talk to people and figure this out. And so what did I do? Oh, and another thing that Ryan also said was, oh, and use ServiceNow. I'm like, okay, what? So I don't know the people, don't know the process. Okay, I got this tool. I know Microsoft Excel. Woo! Microsoft projects, all the project managers out there. And I had to put in a request for that because I didn't have that day one too. So I said, okay. Initially, we didn't use, for that acquisition, we had a timeline to complete it within 3 months. Generally, it takes like 6 to 9 months, and again, this is half the size of the company, and so the companies that we've integrated prior to that was significantly less. So it was certainly a challenge, but I said, okay, great, I'm gonna talk to the server team, the network team, and get to know people. Basically, during that period, all we had was spreadsheets. I was paired with another project manager from the company that we acquired, and I said, hey, do you have a project plan? She goes, yeah, we do. I'm like, okay, well, I'll leverage that. Why reinvent the wheel, right, if someone else with lots of experience already, has that? So I use that, and what I wanted to do was make sure that I communicate with the teammates, and I was very transparent about that. I said, guys, I really don't know what I'm doing, so it is up to all of us to work together, collectively, figure this out. How are we gonna do this together? Because I can't do this alone. And what we did was take the first step, right? Take every task, all the things that we're doing, and put it in the system, put it in whatever. So we started off with Excel, but eventually we took that, lessons learned, and then applied it to how we were using, ServiceNow. So we basically took the data, put it into ServiceNow, started small. We didn't put like hundreds of tasks, but maybe like 25 tasks to begin with. And then over time, we started to realize that some of the processes that we're doing, we're actually doing Agile. And with that, I'll pass it over to Scott.
Thank you, Claire. So I'll pick it up where Claire left off, where we had begun the process of really getting our arms around how challenging these M&A activities were. And Claire's first day was, in fact, that where, hey, we're about to double in size. And that was how we welcomed her to the company. As we stepped forward, we were already using ServiceNow. So one of the big pros that really helped us move forward was the fact that our teams knew the UI. They understood what a chunk of work looked like in the case of a record, incidents, requests, calls, problems. So they had a great grounding there. So what we're trying to help them do is, and stepping into this Agile journey, is get into a flatter structure. They know the tool, they know where the work is, they know how to do the work, they're incredibly good at execution. How do we get them in that mindset? So as we began this journey, and just for fun, we decided to do this right in the midst of this thing that some of you probably heard about this thing called COVID. You guys heard about that. We didn't get the opportunity to spend 2 months of training and 3 weeks of scoping and building the tool. We, to use a term, we ate our own dog food. We're going to be agile. So as we began to move into this flatter structure, one of the big things that I will encourage all of you, if you're starting on this Agile journey, is the empowerment of your teams, right? And the term that we use often is we push authority down to the information. Those teams out there that are doing the work, they're smart, they're motivated, they're dedicated. Empower them with that work. Empower them with that authority to do this thing right. So as we began this, as we continued this journey, what we found was it wasn't as much of an impact, and ServiceNow provided that really soft landing zone for us to move through these structures into essentially Agile or Scrum. The great thing about that was the fact that they already were using my work. Instead of doing tasks for M&A processes, what were they doing? Stories. And as the teams matured and learned how to do story, because has anybody made that transition from into what story writing is and what points estimation is? Incredibly difficult, right? So what we didn't want it to happen was the tool to provide that cudgel that, hey, this isn't going to work, right? Story writing's tough enough, right? Figuring out how to work collaboratively and with humility, trying to convince your leaders that servant leadership is the way to make this happen. It can't be a top-down, it has to be that empowerment of every team. So as we stepped into that piece, what we found was the empowerment was the fact that the teams could do the work. We had the tool, it allowed them to learn, to mature in the Agile process. Because for software developers, Agile is part of what they do. For those of us who have been in infrastructure for 25 years, I didn't know how to spell story. And suddenly I'm trying to coach a collection of people on how to do something that I had no idea how to do. At least for my part, one of the strong points that I want to make sure is if you're a leader, you're a director, you're a manager, you're a team lead, you're a senior architect, humility and that servant leadership piece is really the glue that will push this through, okay? What am I missing here? I'm always missing something when I get talking about this stuff.
No, and like I said earlier, I can attest to that. It really is. I am a young, woman surrounded by a bunch of men in IT. They have so many years of experience. I felt intimidated, and I was honest about that. I said, "You guys, I'm scared. I'm kind of afraid. I need your guys' help." Stay humble, because it will take you far, and you don't know how many people are out there to actually, they'll be able to help you along the way, and I can certainly attest to that. So yes, humility and servant leadership. I'm passing it on, and I'm also helping the teams now as an RTE, and I love what I do, so.
And really where we're moving to today is scaled Agile, right? The teams have spent the last 2 years learning how to write stories. They've learned how to work. And as we made that first change into Scrum, the first thing that we started to feedback was, how do we do work between teams? So as you're stepping into that journey, as you're making your way through that, the teams are going to tell you where they're at and what they need. And this is really what enabled us to move into SAFE, team of teams. That's the way we coach it. One of the key aspects of SAFE is what we call leadership at the lowest level. Every one of us who is a member of an IT organization, certainly of SAFE, is a leader. And I think it's really, and this again ties into servant leadership, and to be humble, to be collaborative. You're not the smartest person in the room. That's one of the key aspects that we also talk about at Team of Teams. When you step into SAFE, as the teams, if you're using ITIL, and again, there's this common message of they know how to do the work, they know what a record looks like, they know what a story is. It's not as disruptive as you think, right? The disruption is the culture change. The disruption is in changing mindsets where things that I've been in IT for 25 years, it's always been top down. When I came in as a young sysadmin, it was all, if you work hard enough, you get manager, you get to director, you get to be CIO, you get to tell other people what to do, you're the smartest person in the room, right? We've all been coached that. We've all been told that for 25, 30 plus years for those of us who've been around that long, right? That mindset, don't worry about the tool. They know how to do it. The tool really does provide that glue that moves you through it. That mindset change, it's going to be scary. It's going to be bumps along the roads, and thank goodness for that, because one of the things that we coach as part of that is that pain that you feel when you're going through that, like, I don't know how to do that story, I don't know that thing. That's where we learn, right? If your team is pushing back on you and like, hey, the tool's not quite doing that thing, we can fix that, right? Hey, we need to do this thing of, we need to have these stories, we need to have these ceremonies, we need to have these meetings to talk about that, and they're pushing back. You know what that tells you? You're going in a good direction. Don't let that frustrate you. Because that's one of the things that we were stepping through. We're like, whoa, why is the teams beating up on us so much? It's a good thing. Embrace that challenge, embrace that tough meeting. What am I missing there on safe?
Well, and you're looking at them to push back because that does mean that they're taking those initiatives. So that's one of the things we've seen as we've come further through this and we have empowered those teams, is that they do start to feel comfortable to make those decisions. And that's the biggest piece from the leadership side, and where we've had to make a shift from how managers would traditionally operate, is to get them to step back and give people that space to feel that they actually are empowered. And what we've found as we get into more of the results here is that as we've empowered these teams to be able to use SAFe and Agile to give them that structure on how they work, we're able to see a lot of higher performing teams where they can operate independent of a management structure telling them what to do. And so as we've looked into it more and more, we find that generally if there's something that has to work its way up to management to make that decision, that's a bug in the system. So those are the things that slow us down, that prevent us from being as quick and efficient and having that higher velocity. And so from the management side, it's a big shift for people to step back. And it's one of the challenges we've got to look at is how do we get the managers out of the way through this process. And from my side, what we ended up boiling that down to is that my only role in this whole process is to allow the system to exist. If I'm doing anything more than that, I'm usually slowing things down. And so specifically for using this for M&A, that's where we tend to consider that projects, those type of work, as our stress test for anything. We were able to see that we were doing integrations of the IT infrastructure for the companies 10 times faster than we used to do. It used to take us 6 to 9 months. Our target is 3 months that we can get it done within there. And for ones that we need a faster turnaround, we can do it in weeks. We've cut the cost reduction by at least 70%, a lot of that in travel. We don't have to have a lot of people flying out to be able to manage these projects. I used to fly out for every one of the larger integrations to be able to manage it. Now, quite often, these happen and I barely even know they're happening. I'll get an email that lets everybody know that this has been completed. The team can operate completely independently. And with that, we've got that reduced by at least 90% of the staff involved. The integrations touch every piece of our technology, and so we used to have people from every group involved. As we've been moving into Agile and having those very diverse teams, we've got that down to where one team has the expertise in all the different areas required. So not only is it a smaller group that's dedicated for those projects, we're not interrupting the work that every other team was doing because this one project was touching all the technologies. And so now where we used to have 30 people that would be impacted to some extent, we've got 3. And so moving into this, we've seen that we can move much faster. The fact that ServiceNow is that platform that everyone in IT was already using made it a very natural transition. They didn't have to learn something completely new to move into SAFe. This was something where, to some extent, they started doing this without even knowing they were doing it. And teams that really were buying into it could dig into it more. Other teams could treat it initially just like another ticket, and they could take more time to be able to get into the process. So, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Ryan. Do you still notice whenever we do acquisitions now in integrations?
I just hear when they're done.
That's it. Thank you, everybody.